As it turns out, sometimes art does, in fact, imitate life, and sometimes the lyrics to a song are just very prescient. What comes to mind right now is the idea that with more money comes more problems. Turns out, turns out sometimes that's actually right. So, before you, dear brother, dear sister, are filthy rich, how can you prepare yourself to successfully handle everything that's going to come your way when you become filthy rich? So, right now, you're aspirational. You are on the way, on the path to affluence in many different forms and fashions. So, what can you do to make sure that you don't fall victim to the same problems that everybody else seems to fall victim to? So, you position yourself for success monetarily. So you don't blow all of your money like a pro athlete. Way too many professional athletes are broke a couple of years after they retire. You don't want to get fleeced like a lottery winner. You win the lottery, odds are, at least with a lot of these people that win the lottery, they did not have a strong foundation of good financial stewardship. So when they all of a sudden become a decamillionaire or centimillionaire, whatever the term is, well, they become a target of themselves and their poor decision making and others, because there's certainly a lot of people who are interested in extracting money from other people. So we don't want that. So, what can we do to position ourselves now that we're not currently super rich for us to actually become, when we do become rich, that we're able to successfully manage our finances and just be happy? So, you could look at this in a couple of different ways. Um, if you are in a position where you are on your way, maybe you can think about this as what advice would you give to your younger self? What advice would you give to, or are you giving to your children? And if you're not currently taking that advice that you are dispensing or would dispense, why not start thinking about it that way now as you are getting on your path? Maybe you're a med student. And obviously, as the story goes, you are just up to your eyeballs in student loans and you don't have any money, maybe just a little bit of money coming in and you're working your butt off. So you're sort of, I don't know what the right term is, but you're working without a lot of reward. And then all of a sudden, you're going to become a doctor and start making a substantial amount of money, particularly if you're going from zero to hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is quite an adjustment. So, what can we do right now in order to position yourself for that success? Or maybe you're somebody who's an aspiring entrepreneur and you don't have two nickels to rub together. Um, there's so many different scenarios. You're just getting started in your career and you don't have a lot of money. What can you be doing and thinking about? And doesn't it make more sense right now to be thinking about this stuff so that when you're thrust into the situation, you don't make bad decisions? What we don't want to do is to be thinking about this stuff at 25 and to still be broke at 35, to still be broke at 45. In fact, what if you're 45 and you're still broke, but you don't want to be broke at 65? So, not that there's milestones or benchmarks necessarily, but there certainly are. There can be. I think more so this is designed to or intended to hasten that conversation, to catalyze that conversation within your own head and think, okay, what do I need to be doing to prepare myself for more money? Or what do I need to do to change my behavior so that I actually do have some more money? Now, I am not a monk. I've never taken a vow of poverty, and I don't expect you to either. But some of these habits or some of these things that I'm going to be talking about are designed to help you hold on to your money versus having it all go right through your fingers. Because if you are like I was, and like most people were at some point in time in their life, you're living paycheck to paycheck. You're broke. You don't have any money at all. So you know how that feels. And you know that you want to be able to do the things that you want to do. You want to be able to buy nice things. You want to be able to go and have good experiences. Go out for dinner and order whatever you want. All of these things. I totally get it. So I'm not going to wave my finger, wag my finger at you and say you need to stop doing these things. I just want you to make up your own mind about this stuff and you do the things that are going to be right for you. 'Cause so much of this is understanding yourself and knowing and understanding your preferences, knowing full well that they will change over time with more money, with more resources. You'll make different choices potentially, and just your preferences will change. The things I wanted to do when I was 15 are different than the things I wanted to do at 25. That's not true at all. The things I wanted to do at 15 were probably exactly the same as I wanted to do at 25, but they're different at 35, and they're certainly different for me at 45 or however old I am now. So, as my life and my preferences have changed, as yours have, or they will as well. You think about all the different things, all the different preferences, things that you like to do with your leisure time, how you like to work, where you like to work, the kind of work that you want to do, whether you want to take a vacation at the beach or go to the mountains. Maybe you want to go on a cruise. Maybe you have different ideas about physical fitness and health and how can you do those things. And when you get a little bit older, you're interested in optimizing your health versus not really thinking about it much when you're a younger person. So all of this, all of these different questions and thoughts we can have about what we like and what makes us happy and what makes for a rich life, super important to be having because way too many people do not think about these things and life sort of passes us by. So let's get into some of these ideas that I think that if you're able to internalize, it's going to help you make better decisions about things. So I am really fond of the idea of going without. It's the whole idea of absence makes the heart grow fond. And this is going to be easier as you are just getting started versus when you're filthy rich, because when you're filthy rich, you don't have to go without ever. You never have to go without. You never have to miss a meal, or you don't have to make a decision about, well, if I spend money on this, then I won't have any money to do that. That'll be taken off the table. So when you're in a position where it's you maybe have to be going without, it'll teach you and it will give you that sort of instruction on the things that it'll help you go back to these preferences. And when we are in the habit of going without just consistently, maybe once a quarter, you think about religious faiths, they talk about during Lent, you go without, during Passover, you go without. And there's certainly plenty of things like that in Islam where you willingly stop doing something that you really enjoy. And there's so many different benefits to that. So reminding ourselves of that and getting in the habit of actually intentionally going without. So maybe one day a week, you don't buy anything at all, or you don't consume certain foods. I think you get the idea, but I think that that is a really wonderful skill slash habit to be developing right away. What are some things that are important to me, and can I go without them? Another thing that I think is really important is that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if we can internalize that and be doing that along the way, then we won't find ourselves in that position where all of a sudden we have just this massive overhead that we've built up over time. Or I've got this massive amount of credit card debt that I've accumulated over time. Or I'm 50 pounds overweight because I've not been doing a good job of being a good steward of my physical body. So understanding, okay, there are requirements for all these things. There are requirements for being financially healthy, and one of those is that I need to spend less than I'm actually bringing in. So how do I get in the habit of that? How do I get in the habit of that when that is an ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure? I think that that's a really important thing. And it also goes to the idea of frogs in a boiling pot of water. If you throw a pot into a boiling pot of water, it'll jump out, hopefully. But if you put a frog in a pot of water and turn the heat on, it's not going to notice and it's just going to cook. And that is also along the lines of what I'm talking about right here, which is I'm broke, so it's going to be easy for me to go with that. It's going to be easy for me to pay attention to when all of a sudden I'm starting to do too much of a thing. I'm overspending in this area. I am using my credit cards and rolling over balances. Well, let's nip that in the bud ASAP. It's easier to do that when you have less resources. Or maybe it's not at all. Certainly when we are flat broke and we don't have any other option, that's the position that we find ourselves in. But just coming to the recognition that this is not a permanent solution, this is temporary, and I need to get back to the prevention versus the point of cure. The next thing is, you can call it death by $5. I find it's more death by $100. Um, but if you're in the habit of just very casually spending amounts of just call it $5 to $100. So these are meaningful amounts of money, but also very, very, very comfortable because it's very easy to just go and drop 20 bucks. Super easy. Just like it's very easy to waste 20 minutes of time. And I think that there's a lot of similarities between, and I spend a lot of time thinking about my most valuable resources of time, attention, energy, and money. And 20 minutes and $20 are small enough to feel insignificant. But when we pile those up and it just becomes sort of a wall or a big pile, it's easy to waste or it's easy to mindfully invest or allocate or use those in a very, very positive fashion. What would you do with 20 extra minutes? Well, if it's just 20 minutes in the middle of the day, it doesn't matter. But if you are behind in the morning, well, you could really benefit from an extra 20 minutes or 20 minutes at the end of your day to just be able to relax and have some time to yourself or time with family and loved ones, whatever your preference there is. But just understanding that some contexts, sometimes $20 is we treat it very casually, or we can treat it as if it's really, 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 really important. And both things are true. Okay, so it's death by $5, death by 20 bucks, death by $100. It's all in the context of where you are at right now. But if you get in the habit of appreciating really every sum of money or every chunk of time, that's going to better position us for when we have a lot more of it. Because then it's death by, $10,000 or whatever it might be. Okay, so we want to just develop good habits, develop a good mindset, and develop a deep appreciation for the value of our most valuable resources. Again, time, attention, energy, and money. Next, I think it's easy well, it's not easy. None of this stuff is easy. If any of this stuff were easy, then we would all do it. And we would be having conversations like this. It's easy to fall in love with spending our resources, right? It's easy to fall in love with spending money. It's easy to fall in love with wasting time. It's easy to fall in love with, relaxing. Versus, are we able to fall in love with not spending money? Are we able to fall in love with saving money? Are we able to fall in love with allocating time towards more proactive endeavors versus just vegging out on the couch, being a couch potato, Netflixing and chill? Are we able to fall in love with, spending our energy in a certain way, our time, attention, money, all these kinds of things? The more that we can become proactive with how it is that we're spending our resources, the better off we're going to be. If you showed up early to a meeting, so you have 20 extra minutes, or somebody was late, so you have 20 extra minutes on one end or the other, how you choose to spend that money or spend that time, I think, is going to go to over the long term, just like I've been talking about. It's an ounce of prevention. It's being proactive about things. So I have a plan for how I'm going to utilize found time. So in the context again, is found time is somebody showed up late or they canceled on me or I'm early. So I've got 20 minutes, which I can either view that as extremely precious or I can just blow it. I can just scroll through social media and burn that time, or I can decide, okay, I've made the decisions that the meaningful few activities that I'm going to do are I'm going to reach out and keep in touch with old friends, or I'm going to call my mom, or I'm going to read this book that I've been meaning to read. And I have it with me, so I'm ready to go. So are we able to fall in love with not spending money? Are we able to fall in love with saving money. And that can come in the form of, shopping for discounts, using coupons versus just, I love spending. I love consuming. These are just different wirings. And if you find that to be beneficial, saving money, not spending it all the time, then I think that that's certainly a valuable thing. It is a reality that money has time value. And as a young person, it's really, really difficult to get our brain around that. I think we all intellectually know that, time is precious and it goes really fast. And that I need to be present and mindful and all these things. And all these things are true, but it's really hard for a 15-year-old or a 20 or a 25-year-old to get their brain around that. Some people innately do. Some people it takes a little bit of time. So how do I reinforce that? How do I appreciate that money has time value? And that simply means that, obviously investing earlier, you're going to have a lot more later, and it's going to take less on the front end to get a larger amount on the back end. But also the idea that the longer that I wait to be pursuing my most important financial goals, the harder it becomes to achieve or reach those. So the time value of money is a really, really important thing. Getting back to this idea of preferences and habits, if we can get in the habit of, or the preference of, I love cooking. I love cooking at home. I love preparing meals. I think that that could be, it certainly has been for me over the course of my life, a really beneficial thing. It helps me to both control what I'm putting into my body better, but then also to save money. So food is expensive no matter what. And certainly in recent memory, that is more true than it ever has been. But if you can get in the habit of that, it's kind of along the lines of loving spending, or rather loving saving, loving investing, because we are saving money and we are investing in ourselves through our health. So we're able to kill two birds with one stone, or feed two birds with one scone, whatever the case may be. The next thing I wanted to talk about was just understanding your risk tolerance. And it's not obvious that just because you're a young person means that you're an aggressive person. Just because you're young doesn't mean that you're an aggressive investor. And also, just because you are an older person doesn't mean you should be a conservative investor. Because I know plenty of really young people who are extremely risk adverse. And I know older people who are extremely aggressive. What's important is that you have to have a good understanding of how you feel about risk and what level of risk that you are more comfortable taking. And while $100 when you don't have any money at all is a massive amount of money, $100 when you're a millionaire is a lot less. But the stakes are a lot higher because you can go from 100 to zero. And yes, you've lost all of your money, but it wasn't that big of a fall. Versus if you do not have a good understanding of your risk tolerance, and now you have assets and you have an investment account taking improper risk, well, then the stakes are much higher. So I think it's really, 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 really important. And I'm going to circle back on the risk tolerance piece because there are some human realities in there that I think are far better served or understood or learned, experienced as a young person versus an older person for a lot of the reasons that I was just talking about. But certainly foundationally and fundamentally, it's essential that you are somebody who's tracking your cash flow. You have to it's not hard, but you have to create the habit of consistently reviewing all of your cash flow. So all of your transactions, where you're spending money. You have to keep a budget, have to keep a household budget. It's simply a plan for your money. So you have to get in the habit of that, even if you don't have a lot of money to be planning for. When you keep a home budget, when you keep a family budget, you learn how to do it and you understand how that process works. We have to have financial goals, you have to make financial plans, and you have to review all of your important financial accounts on a monthly basis. I just did an episode recently, it's called Monthly Money Meeting, and it kind of breaks down all the different things that I advocate that you go through during that meeting. So 3 things that I think that if we taught young people, that it would really make a giant difference in the overall financial health, the financial wellness of most Americans. The first one being, and I break this down into Olympic gold medals because We're all aware of what those are. So the gold medal of personal finance. So number one is pay yourself first. So as you're getting started, if you get the habit, as soon as you start earning money, as soon as you have earned income, and I take that back, as soon as you start earning cash just from work around the house or doing a lemonade stand, if you can start saving money for the long term, then you really position yourself for success. But as soon as you have W-2 income or 1099 income, you're just receiving taxable income. If you open up an IRA for yourself and put 20% of everything you earn into that account, if you do that as a young person and you continue that moving forward, whereas you always save 20% of the money that you make, I'm comfortable saying that you're going to guarantee your financial success, at least your financial security. Okay, so get in the habit of contributing 20% to a retirement account as soon as you start earning money. That will, for all intents and purposes, guarantee your financial security. Number two, the silver medal of your personal financial life or your personal finances is stay out of debt. So if you're not in credit card debt, and hopefully you're not if you're a young person who's just getting started, don't get in credit card debt. If you find yourself in credit card debt, do everything that you possibly can to get out of it. If you taught young people to not use credit cards, at least to not roll over credit card balances and to pay massive APRs, well, then we've really done a great job of helping that young person out, or that person just getting started. And then number three, the bronze medal of personal finance, take a diversified approach to your investing. All right? Take a diversified approach. And that means that the vast majority, at least your saving and investing approach for your big goals like retirement, child education, down payment on a home, things of that nature, should be super boring. They should be low cost. They should be passive. They should be an index fund. So I'm not saying you have to have these accounts fully funded, but understand how much money you need to be saving right now in order to retire at the age with the amount that you want. Start saving that money. Start investing that amount. When you've done that for each one of your biggest financial goals and objectives, then you can move on to more concentrated type investments, like buying individual stocks, putting money into Bitcoin, things like that. Okay, super boring, but as Warren Buffett talks about, as Jack Bogle talks about, as the greatest minds that we have, your finances should be for the most part boring, and they should be what you understand. If you do not understand the investments that you are in, you either need to seek to understand or get some different investments because you need to be able to understand what it is that you're doing. So circling back on risk tolerance and circling back on investing, I have over the years given Robinhood a really hard time because it's my belief that, and I don't believe this, I know this to be true, that they make more money the more activity that you engage in. So they want you to be trading more. They want you to be buying and selling more investments because that's how they make money. They don't make any money if you buy, shares of the S&P 500 and just let it sit there. They're not making any money on that. So they incentivize you through their user interface with confetti and excitement and really who else knows what. But the idea is to incentivize you to get you to trade more because that helps them to make more money. Now, does that help you to make more money? And I believe that the answer is no. But I take it all back. I was wrong. I think that if you are a young person, you should sign up for Robinhood. Throw some money in there because I know what you're going to do. You're going to lose money. You're going to buy and sell individual stocks, and you're going to lose money. And that's a really good thing because we have to learn that. We all have to pay our tuition, get our education in the dangers and the difficulties of timing the market. Because what you need to do is pick a quality investment, and then you have to be right at the price at which you buy it. And then you have to be right again at the price at which you sell it. So that's three things that are pretty important. Picking the right investment, buying it at the right time, and selling it at the right time/price. So if you're not currently an investor, if you're not currently doing that kind of thing, let it rip. Sign up for Robinhood. It'll be an education. You'll learn how to fund your account. You'll learn how to actually use it, how to buy securities, how to sell them. And that is worth any money that you might lose. Unless it's a giant sum of money. But again, we're talking about doing this before you're filthy rich. We're talking about doing this stuff while you're young slash broke, just getting started. Because the idea is I want to learn as much as I possibly can when the stakes are a little bit lower. Because when the stakes are high, I've got a family, I've got a mortgage and stuff like that. Oof, tough to stomach. It's tough to handle losses, tough to absorb losses. And one of Warren Buffett's biggest pieces of advice is don't blow yourself up. Rule number one is don't lose money. Don't lose money. So don't do that. Go lose some money. I'm only half kidding on this one. I totally changed my mind about Robinhood. I think you should absolutely do it. I think you should throw some money in there and get after it. But not so much money that if you do lose it, that it'll sting too badly because that is an investment. Kind of weird to think about that. Kind of weird to think about losing money in the stock market as an investment. But so long as you take away practical lessons and you understand things a little bit better, then it is of immense value. So this is hopefully of value to you to be thinking about. If you're 15 years old, if you're 20, 25, if you're 30 years old, just getting started, you're a student, you're pursuing entrepreneurship, and you are on the path to earning above average income. Now's the time to be doing these things. And if you're a person who's 45 years old and you are earning around the amount of money that you're going to earn, it's still valuable to be acting as though you haven't quite arrived because you don't want to be 65 and still be broke. So if you're broke at 45, well, that's not cool, but let's get moving in the right direction. Let's take our own advice that we give to our younger selves. Let's take the advice that we just would give to our kids and apply that in our lives. Start paying yourself first. Stay out of debt or get out of debt. Take a diversified approach. Put this stuff to work. Friendly reminder, there's never going to be anybody more interested in your financial success than you are. So act accordingly.